youtube.com/MugenLord. Subscribe to the channel for gaming news, updates, discussion, and live streams. Signing off.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and before we begin, if you haven't checked out my previous video where I talked about Square Enix 2 JRPGs that was announced at the State of Play, which was the Diofield Chronicles, and also the return of the Valkyrie Profile series with its newest entry, Valkyrie Elysium. I pretty much gave my thoughts on it and how I feel about it, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below if you haven't checked it out. So let's dive into today's topic. Today is a Capcom-centric video. I really want to talk about this because it really had the internet just aflamed at the time of this announcement of this particular title. Now, what is this title? This title is called Exoprimal. And the question is, was Exoprimal a Dino Crisis bait and switch? And we're going to dive right into it because I think this is pretty fun for us to really like speculate what's the meaning behind this title. Why? Of all things, why wasn't it a Dino Crisis? Why did we get this instead? And this is made by Capcom themselves. So if you guys didn't know, State of Play was about like 2 days ago, and they wanted to highlight Japanese developers that's going to be working on games for their hardware, the PS5. So the first title that was pretty much announced was Exoprimal. Now, I was in the car coming from the supermarket, so I was watching it on my cell phone while driving on my way back home. So as I'm looking at it, I was like, okay, dinosaurs are mentioned in the beginning of the trailer, and then State of Play is focusing on Japanese developers. I automatically went to Capcom and Dino Crisis. My mind just went there. No second guesses at all. Even before anything else was shown within this trailer. Once I got home and got into the house, my brother's Keel Lantern DX Strike was watching State of Play on their television, and we were all sitting there hyped was because we see this head woman resemble Regina herself from Dino Crisis, the main protagonist of Dino Crisis, Regina. And I was hyped. I was yelling, Dino Crisis, Dino Crisis, Dino Crisis. And then at the end, we finally get the official title and official name called Exoprimal. And that's where we all started scratching our heads. So after that was all said and done, I decided to go jump on Twitter, and I noticed that there was so many people within the community on Twitter that was really frustrated. They felt like they were baited. They felt like they were trolled by Capcom. And it's crazy for the fact is that everybody within the Capcom community, especially people who love Dino Crisis, love Resident Evil, people have been highly requesting and demanding the return of Dino Crisis. And instead, we get a new game called Exoprimal. And then we have a redhead that resembled Regina. So I started to begin to ask a few questions. What happened? Was this actually supposed to be a Dino Crisis game at some point in the midst of its development? Because it just boggles my mind at how tone deaf Capcom can possibly be, and didn't think how the community would respond to this. So before we even talk about the game itself, I really just want to dive into this. Is because if you don't know, Capcom has a history of intentionally designing the game to be one thing, and then as the game starts to stray away from its core elements of a particular series or franchise that it was originally meant to be, it ends up turning into a whole different IP in itself. Give you a perfect example: Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry was supposed to be a Resident Evil title. It became so action-based and it strayed so much away from what Resident Evil is. They end up transforming the game and renaming the game, rebranding it, and creating a new IP called Devil May Cry. And when I look at Exoprimal, I'm thinking the same thing. Could this have originally been a Dino Crisis game? Now, if you look at the history of Dino Crisis was essentially a Resident Evil clone, but with dinosaurs instead of zombies and monsters and everything. And I enjoyed it because it brought dinosaurs back in the limelight. You know, Jurassic Park was a really big thing back then. And then now we have Dino Crisis. And, you know, dinosaurs was really cool, really scary at the time. So they pretty much just upped the ante with that, and they garnered the fan base. And then they went to Dino Crisis 2, pretty much turned into like more like an arcade action shooter and everything like that. And then Dino Crisis 3 totally went left field, became more futuristic, you know, jetpacks and all this other type of stuff. So when I look at Exoprimal and I see the exosuits and everything, it kind of remind me if they were taking elements from Dino Crisis 3 in a sense. And the more and more I look at it, it looks like as if Capcom was planning to make this a Dino Crisis game, and then it just went totally ballistic and totally off rails, and you said, you know what, let's just make this a new IP in its own and see what happens from there. So maybe that woman could have been at one point Regina at some point, but once they started adding in the exosuits and started adding in all these different mechanics and different suits, and the gameplay started straying away from what they intentionally wanted it to be, they probably just turned it into its own IP. That's what I'm thinking. But as far as the game itself, what do I think about it now that I'm looking at it for what it is, in opposed of it being a Dino Crisis game? Now, to me, when I look at this, it's like a mixture, in my opinion, of Anthem, and also that Platinum Games made by Sega published Platinum Games called Vanquish, which Vanquish is actually a pretty good game. But that's what I look at. I see this game like an Anthem / Vanquish game, and it seemed like that they really want to focus on some team play, and also from what we've seen from the website and what they're describing this game is that this game is going to be really intense as far as gameplay is concerned. It's going to put heavy emphasis on co-op play, and also it'll allow the players to be able to switch in and out on the fly with exosuit to fit the situation. Now, each exosuit is pretty much a class. They're going to have different varieties. They're going to have different positions, and depending on how your composition is within the team aesthetics, you'll be able to accomplish certain missions and tasks. And if the tasks are pretty much damn near impossible, then you're able to switch out your suits anytime you want within the mission in order to be able to trek and press forward within the mission itself. Now, I have a question about this game in terms of how this game is going to be handled. Is this game going to be a live service game, or is this game going to be a retail game that's $60? Is going to be full of content, and of course it's going to have DLC, of course. Or if this game is going to get the Anthem, the Avengers, the Destiny, and all the other type of live service games, or is this going to get that type of treatment to where the game may end up coming out half-baked or not much to do, or it give us limited options with some grindy aspects to it, and then we have to wait for potential updates and add-ons in order to experience the game to its true, we have to wait years before the game reaches true potential. And that's the question that I have, because Capcom, they are going down this route of live service games. We've seen what happened with Street Fighter 5, and I'm guaranteed that Street Fighter 6 is going to be pretty much be, of course, a live service game. So now, will this be a live service game? Will this be another live service game under the Capcom umbrella that we pretty much have to grow to accept at this point? And the thing is, like I said, I'm into co-op games. This game does look interesting now. The more that I look at the game now, my brothers asked me would I get the game, and I'm like, I'm not really sure. When I look at the game, because I know, to me, I can see gameplay loops like this get kind of stale after a while. You just fighting hordes on top of hordes on top of hordes on top of hordes, and then after a while the games begin to feel mindless, that I'm just doing the actions and not really thinking too much about it. Just turn my brain off and just do it. But if the game happens to be interesting, as we start to see more development and with trailers and more reveals of the gameplay and stuff, if it happens to actually be a good game and it looks like it's going to be fun, I can see myself grabbing the game, because I love co-op games. I want to play more games with my brothers, something that I can be able to stream for you guys to be entertained as well. So we definitely have to wait and see how this game is going to end up turning out to be. But I definitely feel bad for the Dino Crisis fan, and even though that I'm not a big Dino Crisis fan, I did enjoy Dino Crisis because this is a game that I grew up with. It's part of my childhood, and Regina is such a cool, badass character as well. So I would love to see a return of Dino Crisis. I would love to see a remake. I mean, if you look at it, Capcom, when it came to Resident Evil, fans got what they want. They got a remake of Resident Evil 2, and then now we got a remake of Resident Evil 3. And if the rumors are true, which is also going to be crazy, we're going to get a remake of the more recent Resident Evil, which is Resident Evil 4, which is arguably one of the best Resident Evil games ever made, and that's even getting a remake if the rumors are true. And we may even see a trailer for that even this year, and maybe get a release of it next year. So we have to wait and see on that. But if that can get remixed, then come on, Why can't we get a Dino Crisis at this point? I mean, fans want it, fans are demanding it, and if you look at it right now, Capcom, if you see the rage from the community, from, you know, social media and content creators who reacted to it and was totally like baited and psyched out by what y'all did with the whole bait and switch with this, then you would know for a fact is that, hey, people want this. People are waiting for Dino Crisis. So Capcom, if you happen to stumble across this video or stumble across any of other content creators that's in demand for Dino Crisis, you definitely have to do it. Come on, Capcom, just do it. But that pretty much wraps this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts and what do you think about Exoprimal. Do you think this was originally supposed to be a Dino Crisis game but went too far into development and went off rails and decided to make it into its own IP? I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment sections below. So if you're interested, definitely hit the like button. I really enjoyed the feedback that you guys leave. It really helps me in the algorithm. And also hit that red subscribe button. And if you want to stay in more news and stay more informed with more Capcom games and also Exoprimal in itself, definitely hit that bell to be notified. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out. It looks like you reached the end of the video. Well, while you're at it, check out some of my other discussion videos by clicking on the annotations below, and don't forget to follow me on other social media platforms to stay up to date with future content. Signing off.